Most TED Talks have one idea, have one main problem, one main topic that they like to discuss. However, I have three that equal into one main topic, one that I actually experienced myself, one that I know all too well and don't want for any other student to experience. The three issues that I have are teachers with the loss of passion, testing interfering, and children not being engaged. The first problem with the teachers being passionless, is it pay? Is it the testing? Is it an outside source coming in? Whatever it may be, as a teacher, your most important thing is about being on fire for teaching. The whole point of teaching is to expand the minds of those not only around us, but the young minds that are soon going to be our leaders, our mayors, our other teachers. And then, if it is the testing, okay, well, then we need to look at the testing and we need to realize that testing was never meant to be the lesson plan. Testing was never meant to be what's being taught. The testing was meant to be an assessment, an observation, whether it was informal or formal, was meant to help teachers and help other educators and people in the government make sure that kids are learning what they're meant to be learning. And how can any of that take place if all we're doing is worrying about, okay, can you meet this objective? Can you meet this requirement in order for me as a teacher to look good or you to be able to pass to the next grade? That's never what it was meant to be about, and that's kind of the ugly green monster that it's turned into. And when you do that and you have teachers that are not on fire for teaching anymore because of that or other objectives, I mean, you have students that become less engaged. You have students that don't want to be there. You have students that end up dropping out of school, whether it's in high school or whether they get into college and decide that it's not for them anymore. When you have teachers that just choose this profession just because they didn't think of anything else that they could be while they were in college or, finding a career, I just think that that's a cop out. And I think that, there were plenty of other options that you could have chosen, because I take it seriously. I think that when we're educating young minds, it shouldn't be something that's taken lightly. It should be something that, we ourselves care about so much so that it's a way of life. It's not it's not just who we are, it is how we are, it's how we'll always be. And I completely understand if there is some outside thing that just comes in and just changes your mind on the whole teaching thing itself. And but that's when you need to do yourself a favor. That's when you need to do your students a favor, other educators, administration, and you need to get out as soon as you can. I've experienced this myself, and I've reaped the horrible consequences of having a teacher that just stayed in because she didn't know what else that she wanted to do, and that because the testing was so overwhelming, that's how she started to teach. She started to teach by what was going to be on the test. And I know I'm a floating blob of a head in a blue room, but you'll have to forgive me. I couldn't find a wall with a bunch of clocks behind me for my story. But, from my experience, another reason why I've named this video Timeless Confessions of an Early Childhood Education Major is because when I was in about second or third grade, that's about the time where you cursive, telling time, all that starts coming into play. Well, some reason, either the Georgia performance standards or my district, whatever the problem may have been, my class was the guinea pig class. And that's when everything started to change, not only for myself, but for everybody else in my class. There was no mastery learning approach to any of this, no move on when ready. It was either you learn this or we're leaving you behind. And that's when the whole No Child Left Behind started coming into play and started to be the superhero coming to save us. When I was in second or third grade, me myself, could not fully understand how to tell time on a clock. That may sound weird. That may sound like I have a learning disability, but that just one thing was one thing I could not grasp. And that was something that embarrassed me as a student. And that was something I went to my teacher for. And of course, the response I got was, well, we're all in this together, and, testing, 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 and I don't want to be here any more than you do scenario in second or third grade. And to this day, I still have a hard time being able to tell time on the clock. It's still embarrassing to this day. That's something that has built anxiety inside of me, not only as a student for all these years, but it's going to still be there as I'm an adult until I can break that cycle. That's another reason why you need to have teachers that are in their passion, that this is exactly what they want to do, because these kids are reaching fundamentals. They're concrete steps that they build on for the next point in their life. And if you're not able to meet those requirements as a teacher, then you're not benefiting them or yourself. You're hurting each other. And to this day, I have people asking me, what time is it? What time is it? And I have to check my phone, because around second and third grade, that's when the digital clocks were starting to come out. That's when they were popular. That's also when they switched to us using calculators instead of handwriting out the problems. Technology has swooped in, and testing has swooped in, and they have stolen the passion of teaching and learning. And now we use those as a crutch in order to do something. And I have experienced the consequences from it. And that's another reason why I really want to be a teacher. That's why I really want to be an educator, because I feel like these should never happen. And if I can break that chain, if I can help a student learn, I can reach their fundamentals or help them reach their fundamentals for them, then, that's what I need to do as a teacher, is help set them up to be successful. And if I decide that I lose my passion and I decide that this is not for me anymore, then I need to get out, not only for myself, but for these poor students. I mean, who are they to reap the consequences of me not liking what I do anymore? Or another great idea, is switching to a mastery learning approach. I mean, what sounds any better than having students that move on when ready? A lot of homeschool works that way. Private schooling works that way. When you have kids that are young going into pre-K, kindergarten, a lot of times if they can reach those testing scores, their birthday may be a little later, but we may be able to squeeze them by. Or your high schoolers that are able to move on when ready to college. I mean, all these ideas are ones to think about. All these ideas are something to put together and think about the children themselves. I mean, if I could go back and change anything about that time of my life period, absolutely. Any of those ideas, whether it's my teacher leaving and finding somebody that wants to be there, wants to teach me, giving me better resources or lack thereof, making me do it, not making me look at a digital clock or using a calculator, or not involving so much testing. No matter what it is, there's been 3 issues that have come in, and they need to stop. We need to start learning that teaching is a profession, one to be held accordingly to what they expect for us to teach and for us to love it. Not to mention this testing, it needs to go back to being an observation, informal or formal assessment, making sure that we have taught our students, not being the lesson plan. And when we reach that, we'll find that kids start learning more enjoyably, we start teaching more enjoyably, and then together it becomes education, not this political game that we're playing right now. And that's just something to think about.